Layla glanced at her reflection in the elevator's mirrored panels, adjusting the $70 blazer she had snagged during a Labor Day sale at Nordstrom Rack. In just a few minutes, she'd be stepping into yet another strained family gathering, smiling through clenched teeth while her siblings listed off accolades, unaware of everything they didn't know. The elevator chimed, opening to the private rooftop of the Shoreline Terrace in San Diego, a favorite among the city's elite. There they were, the Almanzor family, known for their Pacific Coast property empire and their obsession with public image. "Well, she made it," her sister Amira said, raising a sculpted brow. Her designer heels clicked against the tile as she walked over. "We thought maybe your startup couldn't spare you." Layla slid into the vacant seat beside her father, who eyed her thrifted heels like they personally offended him. "Busy day," she said calmly. "Meetings ran late." "You're still doing admin stuff?" her younger brother Tariq asked, barely glancing up from his phone. "Scheduling emails and whatnot." "Something like that," she replied. Her real job? Founder and CEO of Najm Equity. But they didn't need to know. "Not tonight." Father gave his trademark sigh. "Layla, you're 35. When are you going to take life seriously?" Amira just secured 3 new luxury condos. Tariq landed a $12 million investor. "And I'm paying my bills," she said with a nod. Amira grinned. "You'll appreciate tomorrow's surprise. Almanzor Group is finalizing an $80 million partnership with Badr Holdings. Their CEO's flying in to close it." Layla took a slow sip of her club soda. Badr Holdings. Her firm. They'd been preparing for weeks. Tariq chimed in. "They're sending someone named, Layla Whitaker." "No clue who she is." "Probably some executive's niece." Amira smirked. Layla met their eyes steadily. "You'll meet her tomorrow." They laughed, raised their glasses, and launched into a conversation about legacy and preserving the Almanzor name. Meanwhile, Layla mentally ran through the agenda for tomorrow's meeting. The one where they'd sit across from her, needing her signature to seal their biggest deal yet. They'd always called her the black sheep. Still did. But after tomorrow, they'd call her boss. She had spotted a gap they were too privileged to recognize. Back when she was still just an assistant, the startup she worked for, Psalm Matrix, had cutting-edge machine learning tools but a disastrous burn rate. When the founders were on the verge of bankruptcy, she used her modest savings and what she'd learned about their internal structure to quietly acquire controlling interest. They were visionaries, not operators. They didn't care about boardrooms or investor decks. She let them stay in their genius zone while she rebuilt the company's foundation. 2 years later, Psalm became Badr Holdings, a discreet but powerful private equity firm now controlling stakes in more than 70 companies, including 3 that recently undercut Almanzor Group on luxury real estate bids. She kept a low profile, used LLCs, trusts, proxies. Board appearances were done virtually, always masked. While Amira bragged about Cartier and Tariq posted photos from Mykonos, she built an empire no one saw coming. The waiter poured another round. Her mother pounced on her usual topic, Layla's single status. "Layla, if you'd put some effort in, fix your hair, wear something that fits, you might meet someone worthwhile." Amira's fiancé owns a hedge fund. Amira grinned. "We're hosting the Green Horizon Gala next week. $5,000 a seat. Don't worry, Layla. We won't make you feel out of place." Tariq laughed. Layla thought of the embossed invitation on her desk, addressed to Badr's CEO. "I'm content," she said, slicing into her steak. "Success just wears different clothes." Father snorted. "That's what failures say to sleep at night." Then Amira's eyes lit up. "Oh, remember that little AI company you worked for ages ago? Guess who acquired them? Badr Holdings." Tariq chuckled. "If only you'd stayed, Layla. You might have actually been part of something big." For once, Layla dabbed at the corner of her mouth with her napkin, fighting the urge to smile. "Yes, imagine that." "Layla," her mother said, her tone both pitying and sharp. Their CEO is supposed to be a genius. Cold, strategic, the kind of power you'll never touch. She raised her glass. Here's to surprises. The CEO is flying in tomorrow for the contract signing, Amira added, nose in the air like she was announcing royalty. They only partner with high-level firms. Says a lot about Al Mansour Group, doesn't it? Clearly, Layla said lightly, glancing at her phone under the table. A priority message from her CFO lit the screen. Confirmation of a major acquisition in the Bay Area. One that would upend the commercial property sector. The kind of move Amira couldn't even pronounce. Put that thing away, her mother hissed. You don't have anything important going on. At least show some etiquette. If only she knew Layla was negotiating a $340 million merger. But she slipped the phone back into her bag. Let them enjoy their delusion a little longer. The rest of the dinner played out like a rerun. Tarek gloating about his latest condo flip. Amira flexing her guest list for some overpriced gala. Her parents practically glowing with pride. And Layla, still the invisible one. That was fine. Tomorrow would rewrite the script. The signing was set for 10 a.m. sharp at Al Mansour Group's headquarters downtown. Amira had spent nearly a year chasing this partnership, never realizing the CEO she'd been emailing was the sister she'd always belittled. As they got up to leave, Amira leaned close and smirked. Don't worry, Layla. Maybe someday you'll get to stay at one of my developments. I'll even knock 10% off. Layla smiled, thinking of her oceanside home in La Jolla, purchased outright, never listed. That's sweet of you, Amira. If they thought dinner was awkward, wait until they saw who walked into that boardroom tomorrow. Tarek slapped his black Amex on the table. Next round's at my new high-rise in Mission Hills, he said, flashing a grin. Fair warning, it might make someone feel a bit out of place. Layla stood, slinging her worn canvas tote over one shoulder. Best of luck tomorrow, she said with a small smile. Hope everything unfolds exactly the way you expect. Amira gave her trademarked smirk. Some of us actually thrive under pressure, Layla. Just don't let your little desk job make you late. Layla walked past their flashy rides, Amira's silver Porsche, Tarek's matte black Tesla, toward her familiar Civic parked under a flickering street lamp. Tomorrow, she'd be arriving in her Phantom, and tomorrow, the masks would come off. But tonight, she returned to her modest loft in Bankers Hill, powered up her encrypted workstation, and quietly closed a deal that would reshape the AI analytics space. Because true power doesn't need applause, it works in silence until silence is no longer an option. This morning, there was no hesitation. Layla slipped into a midnight blue cashmere suit, hand-stitched in Milan, the kind that whispers old money in a room full of noise. Malik, her executive assistant, had confirmed every arrangement. This wasn't just a meeting. This was a reckoning. Jasmine Tower's marble lobby hummed with curated opulence until the doors rotated open at 9:55 a.m. She stepped through, 6-inch heels clicking with purpose. Gone was the woman in discount heels. In her place stood the CEO of Badr Holdings. Malik followed behind, carrying a leather portfolio that cost more than Tarek's entire tech stock portfolio. The front desk agent did a double take. Miss Whitaker? He asked, stunned. I don't see you on today's guest list. Check again, she said coolly. Try Badr Holdings. The guard's brow furrowed, then jumped as her name popped up under VIP clearance. Of course, Miss Whitaker. The executive elevator is this way. Every head in the lobby turned. Each sharp click of her Louboutins echoed across the marble like a ticking clock. The elevator ride to the 40th floor was silent. Just her, Malik, and the weight of 7 years of silence and strategy. Through the glass walls of the Al Mansour Group boardroom, she could see them. Amira pacing in her knockoff Balenciaga suit. Amusing, since Badr now owned the global licensing for that brand. Tarek tugged at his tie, a nervous habit he'd never grown out of. Her parents sat at the head of the table, glowing with anticipation, utterly unaware. They're expecting Badr's CEO at exactly 10 a.m., Malik said, checking his Rolex. Are you ready? She gave a soft smile. I've been ready for 7 years. At 10 o'clock sharp, Malik opened the door. Voices died instantly, for pairs of eyes turned toward her. Curiosity shifted to confusion, then dropped into stunned disbelief. Layla, Amira croaked. What are you doing here? We're about to start a very important meeting, her father said, his tone clipped. I know, she replied, setting her briefcase down and flipping the latches open. That's why I'm here. Her mother's gaze narrowed. Layla, this isn't the moment for jokes. She slid a printed agreement across the glass table with perfect calm. It's not a joke, she said. The CEO of Badr is already here. Silence fell. Thick, crushing, real. Her mother's fingers gripped her pearl necklace like a lifeline. Tariq looked like he'd forgotten how to breathe. This is ridiculous, Amira snapped, her voice cracking. Where's the real CEO? Layla simply looked her in the eyes. You're looking at her. She smiled and slid her business card across the glass table. Smooth ivory stock, matte finish. Elegant, restrained. Just black ink. No title embellishments, no logo clutter. Layla Whitaker, founder and CEO. Badr Holdings. Her father snatched it up like it might dissolve. His face turned a blotchy crimson that clashed horribly with his navy sport coat. This has to be some kind of joke. Badr is worth billions. You're just a. A what? She asked steadily. A nobody? A failure? The family embarrassment? Malik stepped forward, placing sealed packets in front of each person. Finalized investment agreements, she said coolly. Have your legal team pay close attention to Section 7.2. It outlines operational oversight clauses. Noncompliance is a deal breaker. Amira tore into hers like it might bite back, flipping pages with shaking hands. This can't be right, she whispered. You answer phones. You do office admin. Not since I was 28, Layla replied. The startup I worked for? I bought it, rebuilt it, scaled it. Since then, I've acquired more than 50 companies, including, as of last quarter, the West Coast holdings of Phallic Capital. Tariq sank into his chair, speechless. That penthouse you brag about, she added. It's underwritten through a REIT control. Her mother's voice trembled. But the Civic, your apartment, you wear the same coat every winter. Intentional, she said. Some of us invest in assets, not appearances. Power doesn't always announce itself. Her father's voice dropped, acidic. Why keep this hidden from us? Because you only respect what you can dominate, she said evenly, and I had no intention of being controlled. She stood, smoothing the fabric of her silk skirt, balanced, unshaken. The black sheep no longer, now the one writing the terms. Now then, she said, setting a sleek Mont Blanc pen beside the contract. Shall we go over the terms of Badr Holdings' $80 million investment into Al Mansour Group? It's a considerable sum. Best we clarify exactly what you're signing. Amira had gone ghostly pale, verging on green. Wait, I've been negotiating with you this whole time. Via intermediaries, Layla nodded. Though I'll admit your original pitch was wildly overvalued. Fortunately, I already had the internal numbers. What followed was an exquisitely painful hour for them. She guided them clause by clause through the Badr agreement, pausing just long enough at key sections to watch panic bloom behind their composed faces. The $80 million wasn't charity. It was triage. Al Mansour Group was bleeding cash behind the facade. Their glossy marketing couldn't mask the truth any longer. And she had every invoice to prove it. Of course, she said, flipping to the final section, this deal comes with conditions, namely leadership restructuring. She looked straight at Amira. You'll be removed as project lead effective immediately. Her jaw dropped. You can't. This is my initiative. I built this. Actually, you fronted it, Layla replied. But every one of those deals? Funded through bad or shell subsidiaries. You've been selling my strategy in your name. She turned to Tarek, whose confident smirk had vanished. And those leveraged loans you've been hiding? We hold most of the debt. So technically, you now work for me. Her father stood, red-faced. Now hold on, Layla. This is outrageous. You can't just. I can, she said smoothly. And I have. Badr isn't some boutique firm. We own pieces of over 70 major corporations. Your company barely registers. She paused, letting the truth land. But since we're family, I'm giving you a choice. Sign the deal, accept the terms, or decline, and watch the whole house of cards fall when I call your debt due. Silence settled like dust across the boardroom. Amira's shoulders trembled with quiet sobs. Her mother, always so composed, sat hollowed, as if decades of image management had collapsed in an instant. Tarek stared at the contract as if it might burn through the table. And her father finally lifted the pen. His hand trembled, decades of pride and control cracking as ink hit paper. One by one, they signed. Malik gathered the signed contracts as she stood, slipping on her tailored coat. I have another meeting across town, she said, buttoning it with care. Feel free to let yourselves out. She cast one last look around the marble-trimmed room. My actual office makes this space look like an upscale supply closet. Malik will guide you through the transition. At the door, she paused. Oh, and Amira, about that Green Horizon gala next month? She blinked, wary. Yes, don't worry about an invite, Layla said, smiling faintly. I bought the venue last year. Actually, I own most of the buildings your galas are hosted in. Funny how that works, isn't it? The ride back to Badr's true headquarters, an understated tower in La Jolla with ocean views, gave her space to breathe. The confrontation had been deeply satisfying. But it wasn't about revenge. It was about release. She was done pretending. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. Why didn't you tell us? She gazed out over the San Diego skyline, remembering every dinner where they mocked her clothes, her car, her silence. Because you never would have believed me. You only hear what roars. In the months that followed, the tides shifted. Amira was moved to a strategic advisory post, graceful exile. The projects she claimed were properly credited to Badr's analysts. Tarek's portfolio was folded under their distressed assets division. His name remained, but the autonomy gone. As for her parents, they rewrote the past with remarkable ease. Suddenly, they'd always known she was exceptional. They bragged to their friends about their brilliant daughter, the elusive investor behind Badr Holdings, the visionary who just needed time. She let them talk. It cost her nothing. She kept her modest Bankers Hill apartment for balance and finally retired the Civic, donating it to a San Diego Women's Resource Center. Her true residences, including the penthouse atop the Badr Tower, stayed private, her sanctuaries. The next family dinner, it was held in her executive suite, 60 floors above the city. They admired the panoramic ocean views, the curated art, the hushed, understated wealth. She lifted a glass of Brunello worth more than Amira's wardrobe. Success, she said quietly, isn't about what you flaunt. It's about what you build when no one's paying attention. No one replied. For once, the black sheep had silenced the flock. Hi besties, thank you so much for watching to the end. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.